All right, ready? First try. Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole.
And today we are discussing our second reading of Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. It is chapters, 18 through 37? Something like that, yeah.
So, if you haven't read that far, go ahead and just stop. Stop the little podcast here and go back and read. And then get caught up. And then join us on a replay. If you're joining us live, we encourage you to participate in the chat. We like to hear what you think about what we're reading. And if you're catching us on the replay, participate in the discussion box. Because again, we love to relive the books and the questions and the theories and all that stuff. So just chat us up. We love it. We have tons of other books playlisted for you in the playlist section of our channel. We are on YouTube Music as a podcast as well, if you would like to only hear us and not see us. I almost always say that backwards. Like, if you want to see us but not hear us. Weird. So
There's a lot of people in the chat that are like that.
And we're on little Instagram for the memes.
Yep.
Send us memes.
And I failed to make any memes this week. It was a busy week.
But we have lots of memes in the queue.
Oh yeah, we're ready to go. Yeah, we're
This is a
locked up.
This is a good book. It's a fun read.
It is a fun read. Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, so yeah, let's just dive right in, I guess. Again, if you have not read the first bit, this is the second bit. This is the middle of the book, so you don't want to be spoiling this if you intend to read the first part.
And I kind of like how this book is laid out. Like, there's a small mystery in the first third, and then you kind of hit that point.
Yeah.
And then there's another following mystery in the second third, and now we're getting into this bigger mystery.
I'm really interested to see where we go for the third reading, because I don't think our characters know, right? They're just they're literally winging it right now and just hoping for the best. So it'll be fun to see where we go. I'm loving this book. I'm just throwing this out there. Number one, I'm enjoying it anyway. I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the writing style. I enjoy the flipping between Holden and Miller. And there was that one chapter where you flip so hard that you go back a minute
and you catch. Yes, I liked that.
I enjoyed that. But and then they do this reveal where they're like, "Oh, and it's aliens." Anytime there is anything, and then somebody's like, "Oh, and it's aliens," I'm here for it every time. So I was like, "Yes, this is for me." I love that little bit.
This book is very descriptive, and it reads like watching a movie or like watching a show. And so I can see everything happening. It's very entertaining, very easy to read. And the part that is most action-y and action scenes I don't really see as well, and I don't know why that is. Maybe I don't want to see people get shot and stuff. But when they were clearing is it Eros? When they were clearing Eros and sending everyone into the casino floors to be safe from the radiation. That whole scene, that whole chunk of the reading was just very vivid in my mind. Yeah. And I enjoyed that. Also very vivid in my mind was when they found the radiator coil and all the melted people and stuff.
We spent so much time, I guess. I feel like so much happened in this reading, but at the same time, I feel like this story didn't really progress. We got a lot of reveals. We kind of understand what's happening, but we spent a lot of time trying to escape Eros, and I'm fine with that. Whatever. Or we spent a lot of time with the puke zombie story, right? Which was barely mentioned in the prologue or whatever, and then dominated this section of the reading. But my point being is the politics of this all kind of takes place behind the scenes. We just keep being told oh, there's a war. We keep being told this happened or that happened, and we never see any of it, right? We're very much living with what these characters know.
Yeah.
When they see on the news that something happens, we see on the news that something happens, and we're not doing this whole. There's no grand scope. It's very locked into them, and so obviously we spend a lot of time on Eros because they spend a lot of time on Eros. And I really enjoyed the radiation sickness of Miller and Holden. I mean, because I felt that was very descriptive. And just watching them struggle.
The clock was ticking.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That was really good. Yeah. Yeah, there's, this is very action packed. You know, every, couple of chapters, there is a thing that we have to get through, and you're like page turning because you want to know how it goes. And there's also a few like very funny, quick, quippy, real life kind of comments that people make. And I think that it's, and I can't give you an example, and I should have highlighted it, but I didn't. I just laughed and then moved on. But there are these just very good moments of realism, like relatability and realism. And I did laugh, and I looked at you. You were watching a movie last night while I was listening to the book, but when Julie was writing in her diary, and she was like, "Fear's the mind killer." She's like, "God, I'm a dork." I laughed at you.
Well, I like that Dune is canon in this universe.
It was in something else too. What else did we read that Dune was referenced? It was another fiction, like
I don't know.
It was all fiction.
I wonder if it was in Red Rising.
Yes,
I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Shelby says that she's more of an Amos fan now. I remain an Amos fan. Started there, I'll end there. So one of the realistic things was sort of after Holden professes his love for Naomi.
Awkward.
And then he like goes up to the ship level or whatever where she's working, and Amos is just chilling, and then finally Amos gets the hint that like he's not supposed to be there anymore. He's like, "I'll go look at that thing," and he's like telling them that he knows they don't want him there, and he's telling them that he's giving them space because he doesn't really have anything to do. But that was one of those like very like, okay, I'm gonna go do this.
And poor Alex.
Yeah,
he's just like also a guy that like has the one who has to still be on the ship when they're out doing things. Like I feel like he doesn't really have much of a role or a personality. He's the country one, right?
He's the Martian. Yeah,
the cowboy.
I think he's the Martian. Not sure about that. Anyway, but Amos is a good time.
And good for Naomi. Yeah. For being like, I am super attracted to you, but you only noticed me when I was the only woman left, and I don't really. Yeah. That's not good enough for me. Good for her. Because this could very easily be just a relationship of like convenience, and just whatever. But she knows her worth.
I agree, Shelby. I think that Miller's obsession with Julie is weird.
It reminds me of, was it Luigi that creates this fake love interest?
Oh yeah, Luigi.
Luigi.
Yeah.
Luigi. Yes.
Yeah, very interesting.
And Remembrance of Earth's Past.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know. He has these failed relationships. He doesn't really have healthy relationships with other people at all. Maybe he's starting to build a healthy relationship with these Rocinante folks, but I mean, like, I don't know. I have never been that involved in like this sort of investigation, so I don't know if this happens normally. But like, I'll think about some of these detective shows I watch where they just become obsessed with this case, and that's what it is, right? Like, how different is Miller's obsession with Julie? How much different is that from Holden's obsession or love for Naomi right now, right? Like, it's what's available. It is the only person like left in his life. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of parallels there that they don't really understand to be able to talk about.
And Peggy brings up a good point in the chat that Julie is Miller's tether to humanity. So yeah, maybe he is confusing that for love. Yeah. Maybe, and it is love of a sense. Yeah. But it is keeping him attached to being human. Because, yeah, I mean, he just, like, killed 5 people in a row and kind of enjoyed killing some of the last ones. Yeah. And then Julie pops up in his mind again, grounds him. He's not in love with her. He doesn't know her. Right. But he has
this idea of her.
And he's made this very deep connection. Like he said, like, it happens sometimes when you're going through all their emails and you just romanticize this version.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how different is it, like, saying that he's in love with an idea of Julie rather than the real Julie? Doesn't that happen, like, all the time? Yes. But the person is still alive? Yes. It's like, how different is that?
People that end up breaking up because the person didn't become who the other person wanted them to become. Like their
idealized version, sure. Or I think of people, like, who are in love with celebrities, right? Like, they don't know you. Or like, I think it's social media, right? Like, he only got a glimpse of Julie's life, whatever it was that she put on her computer, which was arguably a lot. But, like, she could have been a terrible person. You don't know. So, yeah. Interesting. So we're at a point now where we definitely think we have good reason to suspect that Protogen is the one behind all of this, and they have started a war between Mars and the Belt, and maybe now Earth or whatever, so that they can cover up these like scientific atrocities that they're doing. I disliked whenever they're like, "Hey, we found in the ship's computer the like advertisement for the board meeting where they just tell you everything." Like, I don't like that. I think it's like kind of lazy. I think the situation here is like a little more plausible than Violet telling me while she's crossing the parapet, right? But it felt very Violet crossing the parapet, where like the bad guy just monologues for a second and tells you things. We needed to know. This is the fastest way for us to know. We are halfway through the book. We don't be like, you know, we got to progress this. Mm-hmm. It's not unbelievable. I just like the discovery instead of the exposition, I suppose.
Yeah. But there's a point where it's like, how many books does this one book need to be?
Yeah.
You know, it is a long book.
Yeah.
On its own.
But yeah, so basically they discover this alien virus situation. They don't know what it does. They were working on it on like a moon of Saturn or somewhere, and there seems to have been a lab leak there. This ship that Julie's ship finds the science ship that had the virus on it. We watch all the videotape of that science ship because this is the ship with the goo head and all that. Mm-hmm. The captain on the ship like knows it's out, knows that they're infected, is like booking it, trying to get them all back to Protogen, it looks like. Julie's ship stumbles upon this, becomes infected. Julie escapes, happens to go to Eros, where they're also just like happening, I guess, to prepare to release this thing and test it on everybody, just like see how it works. Large scale. And it makes puke zombies. That's what we're doing. Puke zombies.
This one book is 3 seasons of the show. Wow.
I did not know that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'd go to war over cheese. We should make that a shirt.
Yeah, that part was funny. And you make it a decent red sauce. But yeah, so I guess like the part that I struggled with, and maybe I just didn't understand, was like Julie just happens to show up at the space station where they also happen to be preparing to release this virus. There is definitely no relationship between Julie showing up and them deciding to use Eros as the like ground zero for this, because they have been stealing like the equipment from Ceres, wherever Miller's from, and shipping it over there for a long time. They've been planning this for a while. And it's possible that like some of Julie's fungus or whatever got out and helped contaminate people, but they were doing it on their own already.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, why all of Eros? I mean, that's just terrible.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't quite understand, like, why can't you just do it on like 2 or 3 people? I guess the theory is like, how contagious is it, or how does it spread, or I don't know.
Yeah, who has control of the box that Holden took? We don't understand the conversation at the end of this section with Fred.
I guess I don't remember that part. I don't remember us getting back to Fred.
Becky says it's on the Rossi.
Yeah, well, and so basically what it is it has the ship's drive signatures. And I guess every engine has a different, like, exhaust, basically. And you can use that to identify the ships. So they know they're Earth ships, but we now suspect that they're Protogen ships. And it's part of this, like, stealth lab fleet situation or whatever.
I liked this argument between Miller and Holden about when do you reveal what you know. Holden says you reveal all the pieces as you find them because it's this lack of communication that creates chaos and wrongly accusing people or whatever. And Miller says, no, you don't give all the information until you know all the information.
Right.
Because that's what prevents confusion and pointing their finger in the wrong spot. Yeah. I'm kind of with Holden. They live day to day not knowing if they're living day to day.
Yeah.
So you have to release what you have.
See, I think I'm kind of with Miller. Because, like, definitely Holden's announcement has created a war between the Belt and Mars.
That's not his fault, though.
Is it?
He can't control what other people do. He was just releasing that information before he died. Someone needs to know.
Okay, but like, you don't think there's a responsibility to vet information?
Again, he doesn't know if he's living from day to day.
Okay.
And this is vetted information. It is Mars's, whatever.
It is Mars's battery pack.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, imagine your neighbor's wife gets murdered, and you find a note that says Ted next door did it, and you're like, "Hey, man, Ted next door did it."
I'm just releasing this information. This is what I found. I don't know if it's true.
Okay, I'm definitely. I
guess someone's gonna come kill me because they think I know something, and then no one will ever know that this piece of paper in here. And what if it was that easy? What if it was Ted did it?
I think the unfortunate. I think Holden's heart is in the right place. I don't disagree. I think Miller's assessment is like the correct safety approach, which is what I'm here for every time.
Sure.
And I think that unfortunately Holden is playing right into what Protogen wants. Right,
Indeed.
He has created this war. Millions of people are dying, and we should just be
the people doing it did it.
Okay. But like, so let's say Holden never made this announcement.
Mm-hmm. I think the war would have happened either way.
Okay.
Something else that Protogen or whatever
so
has all
saying
these
that
little pieces.
saying that millions of people would have died anyway makes it okay for us to be a part of it.
Because he doesn't know, and he doesn't know if they're going to survive this next little piece of it. So something is up. Here's what we see.
Yeah, I don't know. Shelby says guys named Ted are usually suspicious. I agree.
Chad. Yeah, Earth knew what an Earther would do.
Yeah, they're playing him. But so like now we have to figure out how do we really let them know, like, hey, this is Protogen, more so than like letting the information slip. I think the argument about what to do with this alien virus technology is kind of more interesting. Yeah, what do you do with that? Do you give it to Fred, who is like theoretically a terrorist, right? Like, I don't know. Do you sell it? Because that seems bad.
Yeah.
Do you become like an intergalactic warlord on your own? Because like you could. I don't know. And it's also not clear to me, like, the virus reminds me a lot of where the Alien series has gone with Prometheus and next one starts with a C after that. It doesn't matter. But you sort of find out in the Alien series that there's this race of engineers, and they brought this like black goo to Earth, and the black goo is what kind of gets in our DNA and then creates us to be human. And we have learned that this virus or whatever it is basically just hijacks already existing systems, and I guess turns them into goo puddles, which doesn't seem very helpful. But like, what is that? What are we doing here? And Holden is playing Battleship, but the other player can see both boards.
Yeah.
I agree. That makes sense.
So I think he's doing the best thing that he knows to do, and that's to expose the chips as he's getting them.
I agree, but I think Miller is providing him with valuable insight. Like if the whole argument is, well, what if they kill me and I die with this information? That's like a weirdly selfish perspective, and it does not take into account the other people, I think.
Well, I think he's just trying to make sure everyone knows what's going on.
No, I think he's trying to make sure that he lives. And I'm okay with that. But now millions of people have died.
Yeah.
So. All right. So earlier you asked me what Leviathan meant.
Well, yeah, if you could explain it, and maybe we can see how that all ties in.
So, because I have a theory. So Leviathan is a monster, I guess, out of the Bible. I think it's mentioned in Job. I'm not sure. But it's just like this big monster that's described. And it's not necessarily malevolent. It's described as like the greatest creature known. And there's a lot of people who argue that it's like a whale, or there's a lot of people who say it's a dinosaur, and this is proof of dinosaurs in the Bible or whatever. There's a lot of credible reason to think it's a hippo. Because, I mean, hippos are massive and can be dangerous.
Oh, yeah. No, they're wild. But they're so cute.
But so it's Leviathan is mentioned, and then there's one other monster in the same section that is mentioned. I can't remember, but so the question is, so Leviathan wakes, right? The monster wakes. What is Leviathan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is it this little parasite?
It could be, right?
This
Like
little virus?
it could be the virus.
Or the company.
Yeah, and so like another way to think of it could be that. It could just be like humanity, right? Like as our own destroyer.
Becoming something other than human.
Yeah. I have a suspicion that it's the belt. Leviathan is the belt. It is this mass of humans that is sort of dormant, right? They've
been kind of written off.
They have no power. They've been written off, and they sort of like rise up to as a force to be reckoned with. I guess.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
that's my guess.
Peggy. Sorry.
And we do have the word Leviathan mentioned at some point in this reading, and I failed to highlight it.
I can find it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Keep talking. Peggy in Supernatural and Girl with the Gifts is the virus, like fungus related spore and whatnot, because I feel like that's a very common.
In The Last of Us, you remember that show? It's a game also, but yeah, that was a spore
And
related.
in Star Trek, that newer version, I can't remember. It's over now, but it was a newer series.
Oh yeah,
It was all very
Discovery.
Yeah, I think so. It's all very spory. And just
I think
way,
spores are interesting,
well, because the way in like underground, this like mitochondrial connection, like that's what's so interesting.
Yeah.
There's spores from the top, mitochondrial connection from the bottom. Everything is linked.
Yeah. I think I have this theory that like whatever our big boogeyman of the day is always relates to something like deep within our psychology, and so like I've long had this idea that in the sort of like early 2000s we were obsessed with vampires, and I think that is related to like the wealthy and sort of like the bloodsucker class of our society, right? Like there are these people who can live longer, who can do more. And I think that the trope of the vampire sort of speaks to this concept of these people who are beyond our touch that can feed off of the rest of us. I have no evidence to back up this idea. I think that there was a lot going on in the early 2000s, Occupy Wall Street, things like this. And I think that the vampire thing weirdly spoke to something on like a very animal level for us, and it all tied together. And I think we're seeing a lot more spore and disease-related things like that. And here we are in an age of COVID and measles and all these other things. And it's just sort of the boogeyman that we get to have. I think the other thing, too, is that it has, in the last 20 years, become unkosher to have, like, your bad guys be, like, the Chinese or the Russians or whatever, right? Like, I understand that cool. Concept. You don't want to, like, paint somebody as the enemy for no reason. And zombies is like an easy target. But anyway, what you got?
So it was in chapter 37, the last little bit that we read. He and Fred, they're all sitting together. And it says, Holden was a little farther away on Fred's right, trying not to keep looking at the clock on his hand terminal. On the huge screen behind the desk, the Nauvoo drifted by like the metal bones of some dead and decaying Leviathan. Holden could see the tiny spots of brilliant blue light where workers used welding torches on the hole and frame. To occupy himself, he started counting them.
Gotcha. So, again, just a large monster.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It just slipped the word in there, like, no big deal. Anyway. And that seems to be the only time in the book that it is mentioned. Or that the word is used.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's terrifying that it's a real fungus. I feel like we read something else where that real fungus came up, because Peggy told us about that before, with like made the connection to the girl with the gifts. Phoebe is real and has an eye side and a icky side. It's black and smushy.
Yeah.
She believes it's the bug. It's the sourdough starter.
Yeah.
Gotta feed the fungus.
Yeah, I mean, like, all these places are real, and like the asteroids are real, and like the belt is real.
Yeah.
I think all that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it makes it easier to read, that the places and the names and, they're all real.
Yeah. I think so. So one of the reasons I chose this, number one, I was ready to go back to sci-fi after all the nonsense that we've been doing recently, and I think everybody was ready. But also like I'm really hung. I was telling my in-laws about this today, but like I'm really hung up on like Cthulhu stories right now, and and like there's an element of cosmic horror, but it's also sea horror, right? Like so before you had space horror, you had sea horror. It was the great unknown. It was the depths. It was
Still is.
yeah. It's where Leviathan lives, right? And so I've been like watching a lot of these like sea horror movies and playing games and reading books and stuff like that. And what I think is interesting is just sort of like the crossover that you get between sea horror and space horror, and like it lives so closely in our minds that like you just can't help but tie them together. Right? We call them all ships, and we have captains and all that stuff. But even with this virus, right, it creates these tendrils and these sort of like I see them all as like mollusks, and it creates these like vents, and I think at one point it says gills, right? And there's just so much. It's the sea. The Nautilus shape. The sea is the unknown that we understand, and so of course we project that onto space, and I just love those tie-ins so much. So we love the game Terraforming Mars, Shelby. We love it.
I do love that game.
It's a fun game.
I don't even try to win. I'm just excited to get it terraformed.
She just wants to put like forests on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that game.
It's a good time.
Where's that comment at? I missed
Last
it.
one.
Oh.
Yeah. So Peggy says, when the goo becomes way worse, it is turning people into sharks or something. Julie's body had weird growths, and so did the remains on the stealth ship. Yeah. I mean, like something. It's definitely turning people into some other, combination of things.
It was interesting to read her diary entries. Like, ooh, something weird's happening in my back. Ooh, there's goo coming out of there.
Yeah, that was kind of gross. Shelby has all the expansions.
Oh, cool.
I think we have one. I'm not sure about that, but I think we have one of them. You can also play on your phone, and I play on my phone sometimes.
Aw.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much further we go with like the alien storyline. A lot of the sci-fi we've read, like the aliens show up, and I have a feeling that this is sort of, I think the argument was that there was an asteroid that they found. That's where they find this. No, it was the moon. It's a funky shaped moon, and they realized that it's not really a moon. It's like an interstellar spacecraft, basically.
Oh, wow.
It reminds me of the cigar thing or whatever that came through the solar system a couple years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
There was that like weird shaped thing that just like came cruising through, and people were like, what if it's a probe or something? That's what this reminds me of. Why build like a whole ship when you can just strap something to a rock and sling the rock out there?
Yeah.
Especially with all the talk that we've had about rocks being great for protecting things inside from radiation and stuff like that. Which reminds me of Deception Point, because that was kind of the whole point of Deception Point.
What a bad book.
It was not good.
Golly. Forgot about that one. I enjoyed the blackmail chat. It reminded me of the Big Bang Theory when they're discussing a Mexican standoff, blackmail, extortion, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody corrects him. I think Naomi corrects him. She's like, that's not blackmail.
Yeah, it's extortion.
That's okay.
So, what a time to correct people.
Yeah.
Well, actually. All these little dorks in space.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, so far I'm really enjoying it. It is time, chat, it is time for us to choose our next book. It is Nicole's turn.
It's my turn to choose. So, do you want something from the How to Betrayal, or do you want to go into book 2?
Yeah. I feel like 3 weeks, I personally feel like 3 weeks was short enough that I'm not opposed to reading the second book, and I'm enjoying this enough to read the second book. But if the people want to go somewhere else and then come back to it, I think it's fine.
Oh, yeah. Hey, it came up again, didn't it? That, like, I don't know. I keep dreaming about the book, so I'm not sure what I've read and what I've dreamt. I feel like something came up again. Like, how did they know that we went this direction or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is in reference to a theory that Peggy wrote in a comment about
The bee
when they're
sting.
on the Donager, he gets Holden is stung by like a bee or
A
something.
wasp, yeah.
Yeah, and like why is that in space? And so
Maybe it is just a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
maybe so. Yeah.
We've got the Mormons
So yeah,
too.
what's going on there? But
How'd they know they were on Eros?
and I'm not sure that they did.
They were waiting for him. Yeah,
No,
what
I
was
think
up with the...
the shootout was that they just all happened to be going to get.
But then we found
Julie.
out, they got that little alert, like, hey, they know you're coming, but it was like too late.
What?
They had gotten this like alert.
Who's they?
Holden's people
Got an alert.
got this alert too late, saying like, hey, they found out you're coming. You're in danger.
Oh, from Fred.
And they're like, wow, thanks for that. Too late. But there was some information in it that was helpful.
Yeah, there was some reason, though, that they could tell. And it might have been the same way that Miller was able to figure it out or something. Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Simplest explanation's the best. Tracker in the arm.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
So Shelby's saying throw book 2 in the hat.
This one? That's fine. We are, for whatever the next book is, we're probably going to need to stretch out to 4 weeks because we are likely to need to take a week off. Which is fine. Whatever. It gives us a little more time.
A mole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe the radiation cleaned out the...
Yeah. What if we just never
Tracker.
revisit that?
Yeah. Just forgot to include it.
Because, like, you would think that Holden would think, that was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have no other descriptions of bugs ever. We have sparrows. I love that their space stations are full of just, like, random birds, like a Lowe's or something, right? That's the way I think about it. Yeah.
Well, I'll put book 2 in the hat, and we'll see what the Hat of Betrayal says.
Yeah.
I need to put some...
Peggy, that's great. We appreciate you recruiting for the book club. We've had so much fun doing this with you guys, and it's kind of wild that we don't have more people like playing along. I think because this is so much fun. I think people really would enjoy it if they gave it a try.
Yeah.
And I've even enjoyed the books I didn't think I would. So.
I mean, really, we've read a lot of stuff, and we've only had, less than a handful of proper duds.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, like, our batting average is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. A lot of good books out there.
Yeah. Aww.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, we do look forward to this. And sometimes we're just, like, staring at each other, just like, because we don't want to talk about it before we get here.
We really try not to talk about it amongst ourselves. Yeah. And sometimes we'll start talking about it, and we're like, don't talk about the book club. But, like, we have to say it. Yeah. But, yeah, you done?
I don't think I really have much else. I think I said this at the beginning, but like, I've really enjoyed this reading, but I don't feel like all that much happened. Right? It was very. You said descriptive earlier, but it was like very descriptive of like 3 scenes. We essentially had 3 scenes that we spent a long time in, and I am not mad about that. It's just for discussion purposes. I mean, like they shot a bunch of people and ran from puke zombies. I mean, like for like 3-4 chapters.
That was wild. Yeah, I'm sorry for your friend, Peggy. Yeah, we're going to have like bonus episodes of like, here's how I'm recovering from hurricane season.
Yeah.
I went outside and smelled flowers today. I donated to the Save the Children Foundation. That book was rough. Did you actually finish it?
I was in the last chapter, and then I skipped to the end.
Boy. Anyway.
Because there's that thing about like the light, but it wasn't really light. I actually really enjoyed the ending. I think the ending's really excellent.
Yeah. My mom was waiting for it it was on hold at the library, and I was like, Mom, cancel that. don't do it. Get out of there.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope.
Okay.
I will post shortly what our next book is.
Okay. And we were going to be reading the last section, right? So from basically 38 onwards. Cool.
And we'll see you next Sunday.
We will see you then.
Happy reading.
Bye.